Page 7. Okay, Mr. Chairman, we received a request from the Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authority to alter the agreement that we've entered into based on the option that I'm displaying up here. The board entered into a contract to transfer a portion of the Roosevelt property to the Honey Lake Valley Recreational Authority. We cut out, if I can get this section here to allow access to the sheriff's building on this parcel. If the board remembers that. So the sheriff and Melody both went out there with city staff and surveyor to review that and try to come up with some points on the ground where we could make that work. They concluded, and I'm not in entire agreement with them, but the best way to access that would be through an easement through the parcel rather than cutting out this section here.
So the sheriff can get to that building?
Right, exactly. And so that is the request that we have from the Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authorities, that we just make the line along, straight along here. Maybe I'll walk over.
I think so. You just should be.
This, yeah. Well, this doesn't seem to be working well.
It doesn't work well.
But basically we would go straight down here, deed this and this to the Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authority, and we would access it through a deeded easement to the building.
Where's the building, Richard? Where's the building?
Right here. It's actually on a separate parcel that's
like.
south of the Roosevelt parcel. Even though the sheriff and Health and Social Services don't see the need for that building in their operations in the future, I don't know that it's wise to just to make it a parcel that only has access through that parking lot, which I think is what that's going to be in terms of marketability of that site. If you remember, I recommended that we move the line on this side of the building, and the board chose to give them more. So that is the request from Jerry.
Long-term, the pool authority is going to need all the property that they've requested there, and having that notch there kind of makes it kind of awkward in terms of being able to bring the sheriff's boat in for the boat patrol that's stored there in the off-season. You know, trying to make it negotiate around that tight squeeze. The authority's attitude is as we develop and use the site, it's going to be a long period of time before that part of it will probably be encumbered by some part of the facility. And the sheriff's indicated his desire, apparently, this is what was reported to the authority, that he's planning on relocating the storage for his boat patrol to something that's more convenient to him over at, this is kind of an isolated out-of-the-way spot for him. And, you know, at one time it was used and they had other activities going on around there. And it was a relatively unused piece of county property that was being used for vehicle storage and otherwise, which is no longer going to be the case. So, but the idea being is, however they use to get in and access it, you know, whatever they need to maneuver to do that, it makes no sense trying to confine them to this. Why not let them just come in across and that's something that the authority had no problem agreeing to. And if it's something that the county wants to use the building for something post-sheriff, that's another question. Maybe the request to the authority is that they not preclude the ability for access to that building by granting an easement or granting ability to come across that portion of the property that would be under the control of the authority itself.
What I would suggest is, if the board's inclined to grant the request, is that we retain a deeded easement to that property. I'm not sure exactly what the discussions were at the Recreation Authority, but it may be that they're assuming that when the sheriff moves out, nobody's ever going to use that building anymore. I don't think that's a fair assumption.
No, I don't think that's been their assumption. But, right now, the only one that has an interest in it is the sheriff. And what I just said is, there's potential other use by other county entities. And I think as far as the authority is concerned, is that they're not interested in precluding the county from having access to that particular building, but just to confine it to a narrow space and create this odd-shaped parcel is what they're saying, that doesn't make sense. So they haven't decided on finalize the plan for how the pool. The proposal that was submitted by the consultant didn't sit well with me, and he had the pool on he had parking on this side and pool on the other side and whatever. So we're still sorting out how that's going to shape up, and probably the next meeting will be telling us a lot.
So where that deeded easement would be, that's just designated for parking.
Right.
It's not going to have a negative effect.
Well, to the extent that there's a plan, yeah, I think that's still in flux right now, what the actual design of the site.
What was shared with me was that the sheriff was more interested in having ability to have a direct shot coming from the street through the gate and just go head south and be able to maneuver his building, and rather than try to do this, come around and come through this piece that was being bootlegged off to the school site.
So what I would suggest is that we retain it could be a non-exclusive easement, doesn't necessarily have to be an exclusive easement, coming from South Street straight down to the building.
Well, if it was exclusive, that would satisfy. We don't really want other people using it. County.
Well, if we retained an exclusive easement, it would mean that nobody else could use it, right, including the recreation authority.
Yeah, and the pool authority, I don't think would be in favor of that. I think what the pool authority is willing to do is to work with the county to provide adequate access to the building, not preclude or landlock the building so it couldn't be done. Rather than being confined to this is how you have to do it in this little space, give them the flexibility to figure out how to use the property to maximize what they want to use the property for. But at the same time, when they do, make sure that there's the ability to get to that building in and out. And that's what they're asking for.
Would it be a motion?
Well, if in case we get a motion, I'd make that motion. And I would say not just be exclusive to just the sheriff's use, but any future potential county use of that building would be satisfactory.
Well, I would think that the easement would be tied to parcel B.
Yeah, which is the part we're annexing to that. But it's all.
No, the part that we're retaining.
B is blue.
I can't see the colors in here.
Either B or the parcel that the building actually sits on.
Yeah.
So that if we say we don't want that building anymore, we want to surplus it, that easement goes with the parcel. Because otherwise it's...
Yeah. I agree. I mean, in terms of it's tied to the parcel rather than tied to the structure on the parcel. That's how it should be. Because right now it's only being used by the sheriff, but it can be used by others. I think in terms of how that property is utilized in the future, the county shouldn't be precluded from that.
Okay. Any public comment?
Restate your motion.
That we accept the request of the Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authority to redefine the parcel like they were requesting on the proviso that the county be provided an easement to access the parcel. I don't know what you call that parcel.
The sheriff's storage.
Yeah, shared storage parcel for future utilization either by the sheriff or other county uses of that parcel.
Or subsequent owner.
Yeah.
Okay, sheriff or another last name. And then what did you say, Richard?
Or it would be...
Tied to the parcel, so it could be a subsequent owner.
The easement would be tied to the parcel.
Of course, if the county was interested in disposing of it, a subsequent owner could easily be the recreation board.
Okay, we'll take public comment. Eileen?
I
We have a second on
we
the
don't have a
motion.
second.
Oh, wait, sorry. Thank you.
Who seconded the motion on 6?
Mr. Hammond?
Mr. Hammond? Thanks.
Okay, so there's no further discussion. All those in favor, say aye. Chair votes aye. Is that it? That's it.
So we have closed session 1:30.
Yeah. Okay.